The right side of the body is in the
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Well, hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck Program and TheBlaze. This is the network that you are building. I had, quite honestly, no idea that it was even Oscar weekend. This morning I got up and I went, Oscars happened last night. Glad I missed them. I've been a little preoccupied, with the whole countries burning down to the ground kind of thing, so I completely forgot about the stupid golden statue. But the good news is the First Lady didn't. No, the first time a president or First Lady ever presented an Oscar was last night. And even the liberal blogs questioned the wisdom in this. The Washington Post said, no one, it seems within a mile of the White House has any sense of restraint. No one there would dare suggest nearly half the country didn't vote for this guy and doesn't much like him and might want to be left to their small daily pleasures. Yes, but see, the Washington Post, you guys got it too late. We've given up on Hollywood and the movies long ago. Yes, of course, no one noticed you because you don't exist. They will pander to every other special interest group out there. Eskimos, one-legged homeless prostitutes, eyebrowless Wiccans, Tea Partiers, conservatives, God-fearing, Constitution-minded Americans who value individual liberty. No. But the eyebrowless Wiccans, yes. The First Lady actually said that Hollywood was, I love this, was a great example for America's children. Really? Good for kids. Sure. That's because you don't really exist. Over the weekend, I spent 4 hours this weekend with my family, all of my family, watching the first 2 episodes of Mark Burnett's miniseries, The Bible. It starts this Sunday on the History Channel, and it is fantastic. Mark called me about 2 years ago, maybe it had to be longer than that, maybe 3 years ago, and he was just filming it. And he called me when I was over at Fox, and he said, do you have any clout with Fox? And I said, no, not really. And he said, I can't get anybody, now he meant the Fox Entertainment Network, he said, I can't get anybody to buy the Bible. He said, Glenn, I'm making this great show. He was turned down by every major network, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all of them, because they didn't get it or it was too controversial. The Bible is too controversial, yet regular television is not too well, okay, all right, that's not too controversial. I think Hollywood might be misinterpreting love thy neighbor. The networks can easily turn down Mark Burnett because they believe there's no market for the Bible, because the number of people that believe in it is too small. They don't exist. The other reason is they don't want you to exist. I told Mark maybe 3 years ago, I said, boy, call me in a few years, will you? Well, he found the History Channel, and they are going to try to appeal to the people who like the Bible this Sunday by following the Bible with Vikings, because that's the same crowd, isn't it? I don't think any network has ever done this for another network, but I am cutting commercials tonight after this program for his program and telling you on this network, please watch the Bible on the History Channel. It's important that there are ratings there. And I've heard from friends who say, I wanted to watch it, but I don't know if it's any good because, they're following it with the Vikings. It is really, really good. But the media is turning down something that is gigantic and would be huge if it was on NBC because of agenda, and they don't think that it matters to you. But the big statue behind me does. And by the way, doesn't this look exactly like it fits now in the Oval Office? Another industry that doesn't recognize your existence, still with the networks, is the news. If you look at the news today, you will see the sequester is currently being sold as a devastating cut that will ruin everybody's life. It's $85 billion out of $3.5 trillion of a budget that we don't really have. Okay. The world ends over a 3% cut in spending. Really? Everything craters with 3%? Let me put this into perspective. If you make $40,000 a year, that's $90 a month. If you're making $40,000 a year and you can't cut $90, really? I would believe that, but only if you were the person in the neighborhood that takes the family on extravagant vacations all the time. You have 3 boats in the driveway. You've run up your credit cards with every bank in the world. That's the only way out of $40,000 a year you can't afford a $90 cut. And that's who we are. If the world is the neighborhood, we're the ones with 3 boats and credit cards. We are not the richest nation in the world. We have no more money. We're the biggest debtor nation in the world. But nobody's really explaining that. They just want you to freak out that 3% will make it all cave in. Also, another story that came out this weekend, Robert Gibbs admitted that he was ordered by the White House not to talk about the drone strike program. They said, whatever you do, do not acknowledge its existence under any circumstances. Watch.
You're being asked a question based on reporting of a program that exists.
Right.
So you're the official government spokesperson
Exactly.
acting as if the entire program, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right.
And they're laughing. This is a drone program. For the people here in the United States, this is stunning, a stunning admission, and the coverage has been laughter. Clearly, there is no sense of urgency in reaching the Tea Party, the conservative viewer, the one who believes in the Constitution. The people who believe in the Constitution, you don't even exist. You're not even a blip on the radar. They're laughing at this. So who are they catering to? Apparently, all the masses are demanding even more left-wing news sources like Al Jazeera, right? Because now Al Jazeera English, and the president tells us you should watch Al Jazeera. All right, let me show you a chart here. 41% of Americans identify themselves as conservative. That's the big red bar. 21% consider themselves liberal. Now, consider yourself liberal. How many of those say they're Marxist or redistribution of wealth? This is just liberal. There's a lot of people like my grandparents in the blue, I would imagine. All right, now how many are catering to that small blue box in the media? You have MSNBC, all of the NBC networks. I don't know why we didn't put CBS in there, but Current, ABC, CNN, Univision, BBC, Comedy Central, those are all in that blue box. How many in the red box? 1. This defies common sense. It makes sense if you don't believe in capitalism, but if you do believe in capitalism, this doesn't make any sense. How is this happening? The reason why it's happening is progressives have successfully marginalized conservatives to the point, at least in the media and entertainment, of extinction. TheBlaze has a story today about how Soros has backed this organization and they are spending millions in North Carolina to, quote, eviscerate conservative leadership and weaken their ability to govern. Soros does this all over the country. Do you even hear about this story? You don't hear about it on one of those 7 or 8 cable stations, do you? This is a full-time job for progressives, and it is working. Eviscerate. And up until now, there has been only one place that has fought back, and that's Fox. That they have fought back effectively because they've gained enough steam. They've been able to get big enough. We've been working full time and more to provide another choice. one that will enhance that choice. I'm not a competitor of Fox. I don't want to be a competitor of Fox. They've got 7. We have 1. What do you say we go for 2? Tonight I want to show you the progress that we have made. And when I say we, I don't mean me and everybody here in the studio. I mean you. You're a partner, not a subscriber. When I say this is the network that you are building, I mean it. I want to show you the progress for a couple of reasons. One, when we started this network, everyone said it couldn't be done. The left taunted us as I left Fox. Industry experts said it couldn't be done. They predicted failure. But once again, this audience has proved them wrong. They dismissed you. We never have. Your $9 subscription, and because you not only have sent us $9, but also you purchased the products on our programs from our clients, it has allowed us to have exponential growth beyond our wildest expectations. And the second reason I want to tell you this is we are counting on you again today for our biggest initiative to date, and more on that in a second. First, let me show you what you've done in the last 2 years. 18 months ago, we started this network with a couple of cameras and a dream in the basement of a New York building in a studio. In the time since you and I as partners, since that time when we were in the basement, you and I hate to break it to you, have spent $100 million in building an infrastructure. That's what this network has cost us, around $100 million. And we have no outside investors. It's you and me. We have created, in that time, a broadcast schedule of 8.5 hours of original top-flight programming every single day, 42.5 hours every single week. That is an unheard of amount for any new network. Most new networks fill their schedules with old movies or old television shows. We have done the opposite, and you can see the results. Now let me show you this. This is TheBlaze. This is online unique viewership of TV-related websites. I want you to understand this. TheBlaze is now currently ahead of HGTV, Comedy Central. Remember, Comedy Central, that's the one that's killing the right and killing everybody. They have 2.8 million. History Channel, Fox Business, Biography, Bravo, TheBlaze. We're about to take CNBC, then Discovery, Food, MSNBC, Fox, and CNN. When we launched this, TheBlaze.com in 2010 had a projection of 2 million page views in the first month. We did that on day number 1. We had 2.5 million unique visitors in the first month. And if you don't speak geek, let me put it into perspective. There's a website out called The Daily Beast. It's left-leaning site. It is the new mainstream media, I guess. It's heavily promoted by the media. Everybody is in love with it on the left, and I'm not knocking them. They have some good articles from time to time, and I'm happy to mention or put the good articles and link to them on our website, but I'm using them for comparison. After 1 month in existence, TheBlaze was outperforming what the Daily Beast was doing in 1 year's time, and they lost $10 million getting off the ground. We haven't lost a dime. We had 7 weeks. We spent a fraction of the money, we have a fraction of the staff, and a fraction of the media coverage. And I'm happy to report that TheBlaze is very healthy. Today, we're averaging 10 million unique visitors every single month, 100 million page views a month. Last week, TheBlaze hit a milestone when it crossed 2 billion page views since the beginning of the launch. And Google says we've had 140 million unique visitors. That is nearly half of America. And by the way, just so anybody who's keeping score, we don't buy traffic as many of as the other top sites do, and there's nothing illegal or immoral or wrong about it. They just buy places on other people's websites so people will read their stories. We haven't had that need. Why? Because there is a huge market that no one is filling. Our audience is enthusiastic about our content, and they are eager to share it on their own. We don't have to pay for what others do. Our Facebook page now has 2.2 million friends, received 19.7 million impressions, and more than 605 instances of deeper engagement, including likes and shares of our content. So where do we stand? Again, not knocking any particular site. Many of them have great stories, and I have no problem mentioning them, but let me just show you just again so you have an update of where we are, and then you'll know where we're headed. TheBlaze currently is bigger than Politico, CNBC, Reuters, LA Times, PBS, NPR, and yes, I'm happy to say, the WhiteHouse.gov, and they've got their head guy on television all the time. We also have the beginnings of a global audience, a huge following now in Canada, Australia, England, and Israel. But we also have followings in some less expected places like Mayonette, which was number 222 with 1 visit last month. St. Helena, I can't find on a map. Tuvalu, which I don't even know if I'm saying it right. And last month we had 31 people watching, reading, or listening to us in Cuba. They may be listening to TheBlaze Radio, which we haven't even really promoted yet, but it's like Radio Free America. I hope they're not in jail now. All right, why am I telling you all of this? Well, I have to show you what's on the horizon next. Tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about the landscape, the political landscape, because I believe we have about 18 months before things change. And quite honestly, every single person on in my immediate circle and my immediate staff have been hit spiritually and physically here recently. I think we're on the verge of something big. I'm not sure what it is, but I want to show you the landscape and our opportunity coming up in a minute. I also want to show you this. We have a new program on the horizon, and it starts on March 13th. And this program is something that we have been working on for a while. The first episode of a news magazine called For the Record. And it is important, I think, if we're going to try to correct the mistakes of our country's past, we have to have two things. We have to have news and information, and we have to have education. So currently we're working on news and information, and this show should take us back to 1968 when CBS launched 60 Minutes. And in a short order, they had reporters from 60 Minutes showing up at bad guys' house, and the bad guys would run out the back door and the good guys would cheer. And the bad guys were sweating up a storm, usually right here, because somebody was actually looking for the truth with no agenda, just the truth, and they would report it. Those days seem to be long, long gone, and we are trying to bring them back. It is imperative that we bring them back without agenda. And that's why today we have launched something, a new campaign called GetTheBlaze, because this show will need to be seen, and everything that we're doing, we're now ready to reappear on the stage and have people say, where the hell did that even come from? Remember when I said on my last show at Fox, oh, you will pray for the day when I only had 1 hour? It's coming to be that time, and we need your help. An all-out blitz we started today to demand that cable providers carry the Blaze. We're not going to demand it, you are, because you are their source of revenue. We set up a website, and we launched it today, GetTheBlaze.com, and I want you to know, as you can imagine, we have massive servers here. But after the message went out on the radio, our servers crashed. They've crashed several times today, and the phone lines have been jammed. But I want you to keep at it. The website will allow you to connect directly to your cable or satellite provider and let them know you want the Blaze. We've heard from some people today that have used the 1-800 number, which will directly connect you. And believe me, the cable companies, there's two things that they pay attention to: actual people on the other end of the phone and their Facebook pages. Email, not as much. That's a third in line. I mean, it does do something, but their social pages and phone calls. And what's happening is the companies that we're calling, they'll say, what is this Blaze thing of which you speak? You need to be able to say it's a news and information network with a libertarian point of view. If they tell you, and this is a game that they're playing today, oh no, they're exclusive with Dish. Trust me when I tell you they know the truth. We will be available on other network for other cable operators to pick up very soon. You just keep calling. Each and every day, hundreds of people call us and email us with the same question, post on their Facebook pages or Twitter, when will I be able to watch The Blaze on my cable or satellite system? When will we be on DirecTV or Time Warner or Comcast or Cox or Charter? Brian Stelter wrote about this, our Get Out the Blaze campaign, in today's New York Times. And actually, my favorite quote comes from the Dish Network, the one provider that has already agreed to carry the Blaze, and they talked about the impact that the Blaze had. They said, and I quote, "We had customers sign up quickly, and we saw new customers join Dish. In fact, subscriptions attributable to the Blaze outpaced our projections by 80%. Proving that Dish is giving customers what they want in a choice of programming, not to mention the technology to choose how to watch it." When you consider that, generally speaking, providers and channels are sort of naturally at odds with each other, and Dish is in competition with all of the other cable companies, this is an extraordinary statement to make. But it confirms what we are saying is true. There is an underserved audience starving for programming choices that cater to their values. Over the last number of weeks, believe it or not, we have been in discussions with every major cable and satellite company in America. And the feedback from each of them, some of them are very hostile, but very few, believe it or not. Most of them are just like, I don't know what this, we already carry CNN, isn't that conservative? They all ask the same question, why would we need to carry the Blaze? We're not sure our customers even really want it. That's why we launched this, GetOutTheBlaze.com, to prove to them without a shadow of a doubt that millions of Americans watch the Blaze, want the Blaze television network on their cable and satellite system. You're letting them know that you exist and that you are powerful and that you want as many people to have as many choices as possible. You have been with us since the beginning. You have already trusted us with your $9 a month, and we have tried to spend it wisely, and I hope you feel we have. We are now on the verge of making that investment now grow exponentially. We are now about to step up and say, excuse me, there are other choices. We need to spread in the homes of millions and millions of Americans who would otherwise not even hear the truth. This isn't really about you and me. This is about your friends that need to see the truth. And instead of being left with 7 liberal alternatives plus Al Jazeera, and only one opposing option, there will be 2. This is our time to come together. And those on the left, that's why I try not to take apart other talk radio hosts. I try not to take apart other television hosts on Fox. I don't want to say anything bad about Fox or any of the other websites that are on the right, because it's time to put our petty differences aside. It is time to no longer look at things as competitors. We need to build our own frameworks, but we also need to have a real, true Associated Press. The left already has their Associated Press. We need ours. We don't need their money. We don't need their stupid celebrities. We don't need giant golden statues to tell us if we stink or not. We don't need a merger of Hollywood and state, because that's what's happening. That's what this country is looking like. This statue should be in the real Oval Office. We have what we need. We have viewers that are engaged and hungry for the truth. We have Americans that feel exactly the same way, but they don't know where to find it. Help us get on your cable system. Go to GetTheBlaze.com right now. Back with the rest of the news of the day when we come back. I want to show you the country's opportunity here in a minute, and the fact that we have about 18 months, and I think it can be done. But after 18 months, we start to pull each other apart because the parties kick in, and it may be even sooner than that. Last week, Ted Cruz said it was time to start a new party, and I think he's right, but he explained why. He said, I think an awful lot of Republicans failed to stand for principle and contributed to getting us in this mess. He's exactly right. I mean, how many times have we tried to get the Republicans to listen to common sense? But they're, for some strange reason, and we know now, it's power and control and money as well. Republicans are exactly the same now as Democrats. Not all of them. But what separates them? Well, principles. Republicans as a whole don't have principles anymore. And it doesn't seem like anybody does in Washington. Obama is, as Senator Cruz correctly said, is the most radical president we have ever seen. It's absolutely true. Now, the media didn't see that because the media is on a campaign now to destroy Ted Cruz. And when they tell you the truth, you know, anybody who stands against it is crazy. They're extremist. He's ridiculous. He's a clown. Whatever. Senator Cruz didn't back down, and I hope he doesn't, but I would suggest you pray for him because he's under attack in every possible way. He clarified himself and he explained. This didn't make it any better. He said he would have made the perfect president of Harvard Law. He said there are fewer declared Republicans in the faculty than there were communists. Okay, now where would he come up with this? That's an absurd remark. How could he possibly say it? Well, Ted Cruz and President Obama were 4 years apart at Harvard Law School. And as TheBlaze reports, Ted Cruz explains, when I was there, there was one Republican and there were 12 Marxists who believed in the communists overthrowing the United States government. That's really critical. Even with this, the New Yorker is astonished how Senator Cruz could reach the conclusion that they wanted to overthrow the government of the United States. They explain that the faction Cruz is referring to was led by a man named Duncan Kennedy. And sure, they say, he was influenced by the writings of Karl Marx, but he regards himself as a social democrat, not a communist. Oh, so progressives always just change the name. Let me just speak to anybody who has ever read any Karl Marx. You know that Marx saw two types of action that would eventually destroy capitalism and end our way of life. Two. One was a violent revolution. We just, all of a sudden, revolutionaries get into the street and just kill us all if we stand in their way. That's the kind that Francis Fox Piven wants. But the progressives know about the other one, which was a slow transition of increasing state power. See if any of this sounds familiar. Increasing state power through extending of social services, extension of taxation and regulation, so that a smooth transition could be made from a free individual society to an ironclad collectivist one. Well, that sounds like what we're doing, isn't it? If these people are influenced by Marx, then they know this little facts about Marxist ideology because it's Marxism 101. And remember, these are people from Harvard, so they're much smarter than we are. So the battle we're facing is not between the Republicans and the Democrats. And that's what the media wants you to think it is. They want you to think it's left and right. It goes from Republican to moderate to Democrat. But the real spectrum goes from the people who value freedom to the progressives. And that's really, it's actually anarchist, total freedom, to totalitarianism. And let me show you. This is the spectrum. And forget about left and right, because left and right has nothing to do with this. The spectrum is anarchy and totalitarianism. And here's what I had a hard time. We had discussions all day today. Where do these people all fit? If you look, you have Boehner and McCain, and what's his name, Mitch McConnell, and then you have the fat man from New Jersey. And personally, if you look at Chris Christie is really cut from the cloth of Cass Sunstein. And Cass Sunstein, I mean, really, Cass Sunstein is the guy who has made these men possible. because he will control your guns, he will control your food, he will control everything, he will control your thermostat. That's Cass Sunstein. And you know what? I think Newt Gingrich belongs in that. Again, this is not about left and right. They'll do it for different reasons. But if you look at all of these, you have to figure out how you put them in. But this is your spectrum of left and right. And then over here is Al Jazeera, which is for the destruction of the United States of America and for totalitarian rule. Not Marxist, but Islamic rule. And over here you have Van Jones, who is an avowed communist. He wants totalitarian government, and Michael Moore. Those are probably the only two, and he's not even honest anymore. But the only kind of two. And here you have Occupy Wall Street with, what's-his-face, Julian Assange. That's really the spectrum that you see on television. The ones that are dismissed are over here. This is kook territory. And at the very end of this is Paul Ryan and Marco Rubio. And what we need to do is find these people, because there's a lot of people in between these guys, and this is Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, and then Ron Paul, and I put Penn Jillette here because he's right on the edge of anarchy. There's a lot of people in between here. And I contend that the vast number of Americans live really somewhere at this edge of the Republicans, and the vast majority live somewhere in this area. Some of them live here, and some of them live here. This is where it gets dangerous. Past Penn Jillette, it gets dangerous because then you have anarchy. But this is the whole. This is the whole. This doesn't work. But if you look, Fox really kind of covers into here. Then CNN covers a little bit like this. They cover this. Fox will cover this area. CNN is here, and MSNBC is really over here. So you've got three, and where there's the most light, that's the coverage. This is kook territory. No, it's not. This is where the answer lies. Somewhere between here is the answer. And that brings us to the tent. We have to put aside our differences like our founders did and start looking at the things that bring us together. And I have to tell you, I can't imagine the person that says, innocent until proven guilty. No, we're gonna try you in the media. Freedom of religion. That means any, all, or none. Freedom from unreasonable searches. Do you want somebody just to be able to come into your house? Do you want them to be able to fly drones over to your house? Freedom to protect yourself and your family. Freedom from having to have the government come in and say, oh, by the way, this person is staying here. Right by trial in civil cases. Freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. Do you think they should be able to torture you? Come into your house, take you in the middle of the night, throw you in jail and torture you. States should decide anything that's not listed in the Constitution. That we have a charter, and they don't keep all of those. We do. We, the people, closest to us. And freedom to do anything that's not mentioned in the Constitution, as long as it doesn't violate the rights of others. I think that, by the way, this is the Bill of Rights. I think this we can get most Americans to agree on. But I don't think the vast majority of these people agree with this. We have to find the people who agree on those, because all of those principles are not close to totalitarianism. They're closer to anarchy. This is the pool. Starting on the radio tomorrow, I'm going to start asking you to help me name those politicians, because I have seen a few lists come out from people's voting records and some of the new people that are coming in, and we have a chance. We have a chance to put some faces on there and then support those people. Because I'm telling you, New York is never going to get rid of Michael Bloomberg. They'll keep voting for him over and over and over again. And if this president could run a third term, the country would keep voting over and over and over again for that guy too. We have to try to find the people that will talk common sense. We have to have a network and a voice that can talk to the Paul Ryans without demonizing and talk to the Penn Jillettes without demonizing. That doesn't mean we're not going to be passionate about the issues. I disagree with Ron Paul on many things, but I have also said at the same time, I agree with him on a lot of things. But there's a subsection, and it happens as well over here. If you don't agree with absolutely everything, you're an enemy. We'll never succeed if that happens over here. And we have about 18 months to do it. Back in a minute. I want to talk to you a little bit here about history and the president of Emory, James Wagner. He has come under fire for a recent essay on the 3/5 clause. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to use the 3/5 clause and saying, look, we all have to come together. And he was talking about sequester, and he's like, there's ways to cut our budget and come together as people. He said about the 3/5 clause, both sides found a way to temper ideology and continue working towards the highest aspiration they both shared, the aspiration to form a more perfect union. Well, that's absolutely true. That's true. But you don't say that in today's America. And so he had to go out and he had to apologize for handling the situation in a clumsy and insensitive manner. Really? It's insensitive, really, to say that? What he said was true. He said he should have said that he disdained slavery and racism. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have to clarify that for everybody now? And by the way, I just want to make it very clear, I don't have any slaves in my basement. Really? This is the problem in our nation. This guy should have never apologized. We are at a point in our collective quest for political correctness that the mere mention of anything that has anything to do with slavery, I'm wearing a nice cotton shirt, of course I hate slavery, automatically everybody goes on to alert. He said cotton. You know who used to pick cotton? He was talking about the 3/5 compromise. And let me be very clear. It was a good thing. That's right. I said it. It was a good thing. If you know the context. The Union was in its infancy. We didn't have a constitution yet. It was in danger of the whole thing. We had fought for years and years and years for freedom, and it was about to dissolve. Now, most of the founders were against slavery, and they knew they had no chance of eliminating slavery at all if they were going to put a union together. None. They did everything they could then to limit the spread of slavery and the influence of the slave states. Now, today, people are outraged by the idea that a slave was counted as 3/5 of a person. That's because the progressives have turned the whole thing upside down. Oh, there's a hypocrisy for you for our founding fathers. They were calling the African American only 3/5 of a person. You want to be 3/5 of a person? No, and that's the most disingenuous argument I've ever heard in my life. The framers of the Constitution understood, and these critics understand as well, unless they're such dummies that they've never opened up a history. Well, no, they could have opened up a progressive history book, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They went to schools that were lying to them. If each slave were to be regarded as an entire person, it would have meant that slavery would not have been dissolved. It would have been a lot harder than it was. Slave states would have their influence and their power in Congress would have gone through the roof, because if you counted a slave as a whole person, because it has to be representative of the people, their population would have gone up. They weren't giving a voice. They just would have been used by the southern states to bolster the number of congressmen they got. in pro-slavery states, and they would have passed many more things that were pro-slavery legislation. James Madison, he's the father of the Constitution, he said, as great as the evil of slavery is, the dissolution or the dismemberment of the Union would be worse. John Adams said, paraphrasing here, every measure of prudence ought to be assumed for the eventual total destruction of slavery from the United States. So yes, the framers of the Constitution understood what they were doing. But the president of Emory, James Wagner, apparently didn't. And it is the most defensible thing ever. Here's what's not defensible. Being the president of a college and not understanding something as simple as the 3/5 clause and being able to defend it. How did you get your job? By the way, President Wagner, if you want a great defense for the 3/5 clause and for the Constitution as a anti-slavery document, the best case I've ever heard was made by Frederick Douglass. He was a black man. Well, I guess I'm talking to somebody who was educated at Uri University. He lived a long time ago. He was a freed slave. He was a friend of Abraham. Just look him up. Frederick Douglass. Read it.
You don't know if you feel like you're going to be raped, or if you feel like someone's been following you around, or if you feel like you're in trouble, and when you may actually not be. You just don't know who you're going to be shooting at.
There's mace. What about a taser? The buddy system. Other methods at self-defense, judo or what have you.
That's why we have call boxes. That's why we have safe zones. That's why we have the whistles.
We believe Americans seek information, truth, and empowerment. We believe Americans want to put principles above politics. We believe that America was built on hard work and that capitalism has lifted more people out of squalor and slavery than any other system. We believe that more Americans want to give help than need help. We'll strive to do as Jefferson said. Question with boldness, hold to the truth, and speak without fear. We will not play by the rules established by either of the parties or by the media that has empowered them with distortion. We're not interested in left and right. We seek answers to right and wrong. We will let the chips fall where they may. There will be no sacred cows. The Blaze is a verb. We are action. We are restoration. On tomorrow night's show, we don't have statistics, we have people. People who have been raped and strongly disagree with the premise that, hey, you should just take a pin and jam it in his eye. You'll hear from actual people tomorrow. And then Wednesday, young libertarians. It's a new kind of Republican club. And Dr. Ben Carson will be here for the full hour on Thursday. From Dallas, good night, America.